upset son and listen, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. The God's with the king, no matter you're just the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset son and listen, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. The God's with the king, no matter you're just the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.
Good night, everyone, and welcome back to This Just In, a very special episode tonight. We don't have Marsha, our typical host, but who we do have is another special guest that we had from season one of our season one faves. You'll best know him as a guy who has spent 5 years in the Houston Rockets organization, currently right now as the assistant coach to their G League franchise, the Rio Grande Valley Vipers. But we know him here in Barbados as our national coach and good friend. Welcome back to the show, Devan Blair. How are you?
I'm great. How you guys doing?
Oh, well, Neil is good because he's, we talked about it on air, but he's leveled a particular series, so Neil is smiling. Well,
I mean, I'm all right. I'm all right. Just saying, I don't want to say anything. I'm just saying my wardrobe is not a mistake tonight.
Right.
Well, let's get into it, Devan. Firstly, you're accustomed watching a lot of basketball. So how has the viewing experience been for you, that there are no fans in the arena?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in the bubble, right? So they made, only so many staff could go. So since I was with the Rio Grande Valley Vipers this year, I did make the cut for the Rocket staff to go down. But watching at home, right, I'm getting the same experience as everyone else is. So it's been different for sure, but I've kind of liked it not having any fans. It's a more intimate atmosphere, right? You can hear things that maybe you couldn't hear before. You can see things that you couldn't see before. I think overall the NBA has done a great job, and TNT, ESPN, they've all done a great job of kind of utilizing the space that they have in the intimate setting to kind of give the fans a unique experience. That's a little different than what they're used to.
Okay, so go ahead, Neil.
I was going to follow up with that question. Given your association with the NBA and certain parts of the job, do you get one of those cool virtual seats? Do you get to see the courtside view?
So funny you asked that. My wife did it because when it's a Rockets home game, they asked to fill up the stadium, the virtual stadium, with Rockets fans, right? So they send out the email to all the employees, whatever, and you can send it out to family as well. So our fan section is generally players' wives, mothers, staff members' wives, girlfriends, whomever. And my wife wanted me to do it with her, and I was like, I don't think it'd be a good idea if our GM, who is sitting there in the stands, looks up and sees my face on there. So I decided not to join. But she did do it once. So if you looked hard enough, you could have seen her on there. I think she was right behind our team bench. So it's she said it was a unique experience, a little weird watching on the computer. And you're supposed to cheer at certain times. They do like the arm thing for free throws and all that. So it's definitely different. But I mean, talk about a great sponsorship opportunity for Mick Ultra, right? That was very, very smart how they did that and how the NBA figured that out, and not something I expected. And I think it's turned out better than I anticipated.
Well, with that flowing from Neil's question, then, without the lack of fans and basically they're all virtual, do you believe that that has led to the rise in scoring in the bubble? And if not, what do you attribute to?
I think the rise in scoring, I think it comes down to a few things. I don't think maybe you can pinpoint on just one. Number one, from what everyone's saying, it's a shooter's gym, right? It's a smaller setting, right? The backdrop's not as far away as normal, and I think that generally fits a shooter's eye. I would have to look at the numbers and see, if 3-point percentage is up drastically. I'm sure it's not a drastic number, but I'm sure it is a little bit, right? Which would mean an overall uptick in scoring. And then number two, coming back from being off so long, nobody's going to be particularly interested in defense, just because that's a harder thing. That's a harder thing to get back in the flow of. Right? When you're in a gym 1-on-0 and that's all you could do for 6 months, your offensive skills can be sharp. But to play defense in the NBA, it's a team effort. You're not just going to stop a player 1-on-1, very rarely. And so everyone has to be on a string, and the only way to really practice that is doing live reps 5-on-5. Right? So to be able to not have that for 8 months, 6 months, whatever it was, I think that's going to play a big factor.
Right. So let me ask you a question then, following up from Justin's question. So we know that they've been playing a lot of games in the bubble, especially now for the playoffs. They're playing pretty much a game every other day since there's no travel or anything like that. How do you see that impacting the mental and physical preparation and strategies that normally will go into a playoff series when you would have travel and certain things you would have like days that you can rest or whatever? But right now you literally have 48 hours or less to get your body ready and strategies for the series for your next game.
I don't think the strategy that much is going to be that changed. It obviously makes the prep work a little more difficult, right? And I'm trying to do the best I can not being there, right, to help out as much as possible. In terms of right when it's a 2-hour or a 2-day turnaround. Last night the game ended at probably almost midnight Eastern, 11:30ish, somewhere in there, 11:30, and right. You have to break down the game that night. Then you're going to have a staff meeting that next morning that you have to talk about all the clips, talk about the game. Then you're going to have a players meeting. Then you're going to have practice, right? And then the next day you play again. So your turnaround is super short in terms of like you have to get stuff done faster, which is obviously going to lead to a little bit of fatigue from a staff standpoint, right? Because the turnaround is so much quicker on getting your job done. From a player standpoint, the 2-day turnaround is tough, obviously, because there's not a lot of rest. But I think it gets made up that you're not traveling.
Okay.
So normally, right, in the playoffs, say we were on the road for games 1 and 2, we would stay after the game on game 2, fly back. That would be an off day. Then we would have a day come in, practice, and then it'd be play the next day. So you would have 2 full off days then play, whereas now it's just 1, but you're not adding in the air travel, which does wear you down, right? You're sleeping not in your home bed, obviously, but you're sleeping in the same place over and over, going on 2 months now. Obviously, the mental effects of being in a bubble and all that stuff, that's a whole different argument. But I do think maybe the quick turnaround with no air travel maybe balances itself out. Obviously, it's a real bummer if you have an injury because you don't have that extra day to nurse your injury, which, not to name names, but could have came up in certain issues for a few players.
Right.
So you gave us a perfect segue. So not to name certain players, but in your mind, because obviously you're a coach, what has the Miami Heat done in your analysis to be so dominant in this series, to have a 3-love lead, and then Milwaukee was only able to eke out one in overtime. So what has Miami done on both ends of the floor, in your estimation, to be so dominant in this series?
I think it can almost come down to almost a perfect storm of what we talked about already, in that there's been an uptick in scoring, and part of that has been defensive continuity has maybe lacked, and that's kind of what Milwaukee bases, their games on, right? They're really, really good on defense, right? They try to prevent teams from being able to score. If your defense isn't quite as in sync as it was when the season was going on, then it's going to make you a little bit more vulnerable. So I think it's partially that. I think it's partially, Miami just has some dogs on their team, and they're going to play really, really hard. They've got some young guys who aren't scared, and that's kind of the Miami Heat culture, right? Is that they're going to play really, really hard. That they're going to play together, and add in the other factors, and maybe it was just a perfect storm.
Well, let me ask you this now. We started talking about injuries, and obviously there's been a huge injury in this series. And Milwaukee just happens to be down 3-1 to the Miami Heat, the number 5 seed Miami Heat. So what would these players have to do? If you were the coach of Milwaukee, how would you go about ensuring that your players are prepared and ready mentally for Game 5, knowing full well that there are key injuries in that series?
I think, the beauty of having your back against the wall is that you don't have to ramp your guys up anymore, right? If they're not going to get up for an elimination game, then you've got no business being there anyway, right? You've got no business winning the series from the jump. So I think from a coach's perspective, your job doesn't change that much, right? You never want to be too high, too low, right? And that's something we always try to preach, in the G League with the Rockets. Never too high, never too low. And I think that's generally what everyone around the league tries to do, is every day's the same, right? Treat every day the same. You come in, you do your job, you're professionals, right? You can make, schematic changes, right, to combat what they're doing, of course.
Right.
And obviously, if you have an injury, then those changes are going to be, even bigger. And we go back to the short rest time and the schemes that go into it. An injury does play a factor, right? Because now you have less time as the opposing team to figure out what they might do in place of their injured player. So that maybe does give an advantage to the team with the injured player, Milwaukee in this case. But as a coach, I think your job, it's not easier, right, when you're down 3-1 because, you don't want to go home. But at that point, I think there's less pressure, right? It's just, hey, we just have to win one game. And now all the pressure goes to the other team. Right? Every one you get, it's a little more pressure added because you don't want to be the team that, they'd be the first team ever, right, to lose being up 3-0. So you get it close, and there's no home court. It's all about momentum. That's one thing the bubble has taught us. It's all about momentum. I think the Utah-Denver series was a great example of that. It's just who gets hot at the right time, right? Not being able to have in your mind we lost the first two, we're going back home. We're going to get these two. Not being able to have that security blanket is really, really tough.
Okay, right. So what I'm about to do, Devin, I'm about to pat myself on the back because I told a certain person on this show that the Eastern Conference Finals was going to be the Boston Celtics versus the Miami Heat, and they thought it was crazy. So on the other half of my prediction, what have you seen? Because I believe as we are speaking right now, I think Boston is still blowing out Toronto in Game 5.
Yep.
So what have you seen in the Celtics? What have they done schematically that has, given them an upper or advantage on the higher seeded Toronto Raptors?
Not to toot our own horn, right? But Boston plays small too. You know what I mean? It's just that, their center is just a little bit bigger than ours, and maybe shoots a little worse. But at the end of the day, they're small, right? And they can go really small if they want to. And I think that gives teams a challenge. It's just something different you have to get used to. But I think number one, and Fred VanVleet said this in the media, so these are not my words. But he said this, I think after game 1 or game 2, might have been after game 3 when they hit the buzzer beater. He said no disrespect to the Nets, but they didn't quite prepare us how we needed to be prepared coming into the Celtics series, right? Which is really just a way of saying they weren't ready to go and they got smacked in the mouth. And it comes back to playing hard and playing together and, playing a little different. And obviously, Boston's a very, very good team, right? They have been all year. And so is Toronto, right? But in this setting for sure, how many guys do you have that can get a bucket? And, that's kind of what it's coming down to in the bubble, right? I think the Donovan Mitchell or the Utah Denver series was a good example of that, right? Who basically came down who was going to get the last bucket, right? And you got to have a guy that can go get it. And I don't think Toronto shot particularly well. I keep looking at the score just to see what it was.
Yeah.
They have shot maybe uncharacteristically poorly this series, and that definitely plays a factor, right? It's a make or miss league, as we all know, right? If they miss that buzzer beater in game 3, the series is over, right? As we talked about before we went on air, right? They hit that shot, and now it's okay. There's a little momentum. Now they win game 2, and now you got a dogfight, right? Boston's clearly, woke up for this game, but that doesn't mean anything, right? That's the beauty of the NBA playoffs is it's just one game, and even more so in the bubble, like we touched on earlier, you play in 2 days. So get the bad taste out of your mouth. Let's go again.
Get ready. Yep.
So, we'll see. This series is far from over. Regardless, they could win by 80 tonight, and it doesn't matter. They have to win one more game, right?
Yeah.
And Toronto's job is just win 2 more. So, we'll see what happens.
Well, it's a funny thing, right? I had 2 questions prepared for this series, but the Raptors kind of shot both of them down. Because I was going to speak about, the Raptors being down in a big hole 2-0, and then they hit that big shot. And I was going to speak about the momentum going forward. And then the second question, the follow-up question would have been the mentality of the Celtics and what they would have to do to come out in this game to kind of, dominate as they are doing in this game. So, but let me ask about, I think we should shift gears if Justin doesn't have anything more to speak on this series, but we can go over to we could go over to Denver and Clipper and LA Clippers, right? Now, we know that Denver has some severe issues in their interior defense. And of course, we know how the Los Angeles Clippers, they're built defensively and offensively. What do you think the Denver Nuggets would have to do to ensure that they can make this series competitive?
If you can just repeat the blueprint from game 2, that would help. But it's easier said than done. And kind of like we touched on earlier, your big dogs got to play. Right, you're not going to win any series if your big dogs aren't playing at the best of their ability. Right, game 2 they both showed up, right, and they were able to win the game. Now you could argue, did the Clippers come out flat? Maybe, right? Who knows? Right, there's going to be a natural letdown, I think, when you have a dominant game 1, because guys aren't immune to the media, right? Nobody is. They hear it. Right? Like, oh, it's going to be a sweep, whatever. Like, they hear that stuff. And, again, it goes, both sides of the coin. Maybe it lets the team that, blew them out, maybe they kind of take a breath a little bit, and then it just fuels the fire in the other team, right? And then it's just, again, now they're coming at you with a vengeance. So, their two big dogs are going to have to play. right? They got to be able to score points. They're going to have to score points to be able to keep up with them, right? Because the Clippers have too many offensive weapons, starting coming off the bench. As everyone knows, right? They're probably the deepest team out there. So you got to be able to put points on the board to match up with them. And I think defensively, Denver has guys on the perimeter that can guard, well enough, right? So, can they do that for 7 games? Can they do that for 4 games? Can they do that for 5 games? Who knows, right? But they just got to just keep chipping out of it 1 game at a time, right? And if their big guys keep performing, and what Jokic said in the media, right? What did he say? He has to play slow because he can't move that fast or something like that. He asked or something.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, so maybe they just have to slow the game down, play through the big fella. So we'll see. It'll be an exciting series. I think more so than maybe most people are giving it credit. And who knows? It could be another blowout tonight, and then Denver comes back the next game, right? Or maybe Denver gets one tonight, and that puts a lot of pressure on the Clippers, right? It's tough when you're the team that's supposed to win and you're supposed to win easily. That's really hard, right? It's really, really hard when you're supposed to be the easy favorite. Some guys don't handle that pressure well, and everyone reacts differently. So we'll see what happens tonight. It should be a good game.
Well, I want to move you away from the NBA, if you don't mind, Devan, and coming right back here to Barbados, because you are indeed our national coach. Yeah, so I want to ask you, do you have any plans on getting here before the year's out? And if indeed you do, what plans do you have, or what do you hope to achieve in that period that you're here in Barbados?
Yeah, I mean, ideally would like to get down sometime this fall. Obviously, there are a ton of factors involved in that. Obviously, the COVID situation, travel restrictions, that's the most obvious. And then, when does the NBA season end? When's it going to start up again? All that stuff going on. So there's a lot of factors in there, obviously. But hopefully be able to get down this fall. And, if I'm able to, then, there'd have to be some planning involved. But in my mind, would obviously love to see some of our players on the floor and, watch them play, see the talent that we have. And then, maybe go through a little training camp, kind of implement, just an idea, right, of kind of what we want to do going forward. Obviously, it's no time right now to revamp anything, right? It's more just, putting the thoughts out there and just planting little seeds. But more importantly, just getting down there, seeing everybody, actually be able to, touch people, so to speak, right? Be able to get on a floor together and sweat a little bit and, get in some actual work. And just get the ball rolling, right? It's not going to be something that happens overnight, right? It's going to be a steady build, right? And this would be step one of that. So hopefully we get down there. Hopefully sooner rather than later. This fall would be perfect, and then we'll go from there. Definitely jump on the live if I come down in the fall.
Oh yeah, for sure. But let me ask you, Devan, in terms of the in coaching, we obviously know and we've seen some coaches give their opinions on how they approach a new situation. Teams, can you tell us, for you, how do you get buy-in from players, especially in a situation where you're coming, from the United States, professional assistant head coach, you're coming into a different system, a whole different country. How would you go about getting buy-in and getting people to understand and to buy into your philosophy as a coach and gain their trust?
Yeah, for sure. Number one, I think it's all about relationships, right? Like, I think, I forgot where I read it, right? A pretty popular quote. People people don't care about how much you know if they don't know how much you care, right? As cheesy and corny as that is, right? I do think, there's some merit to it, right? I want to come down there and get to know these guys, right? I'm not just coming in, oh, I'm going to coach for a week and I'm just going to fly back to the United States. Like, that's not my plan, right? I want to come down there and actually make a difference, right? While I'm there, I want to be in the community, right? I want to be helping. I want to help grow basketball from the ground up, right? And I'm hoping once they see how much I'm willing to work, right? And it's not just this is a fun novelty thing for me, because it's not, right? Then the buy-in will be easier, right? I have to go in and earn their trust, right? And they have to see the hard work I'm willing to put in, right? Before I can ever expect anything out of them, right? So it starts on me first. That's number one. Then once we get to that point, right, then we can start moving into, okay, this is how we want to play, right? This is what we want to do. And that's not going to be an easy transition, right? Because guys have been playing their whole lives a certain way, right? They think basketball is supposed to be played like this. That's what they grew up being taught, right? That's what they believe. And that's 100% fine, right? I may view it a little differently, right? Now, how can we bridge that gap, right? I'm fortunate enough to be in an organization that uses analytics, right? And that was kind of part of, my initial sell, if you will, to Francis, was I broke it down analytically, right? This is what we believe in. This is why. This is the math behind it. This is why we play the way we do, right? And I'll do the same thing with our guys. Maybe not to the full extent, but enough that they see and understand there is at least a method to the madness in my head, right? And then lastly, and they're going to see this maybe before they understand the numbers, it's going to be a lot of fun to play this way, right? We're going to score a lot of freaking points, right? And we are going to be a terror for anyone to play against.
Yes.
Right? And hopefully that excitement alone, right, gets them bought in a little bit, right? It's going to be a little push-pull at the beginning, right? When somebody wants to take a contested 2-point shot, right? We're going to have a conversation. Right? I'm not going to say we're not. But if he's really freaking good at it, if that's the best thing he does, right, then okay, right? That's fine, right? It's all about being able to utilize what players you have, right, and then try to cater the system around them, right? You can't just come into a situation, X, Y, and Z is going to work because it works here. No, that's not true, right? X, Y, and Z might work here. Well, maybe it's, A, B, and C that works in Barbados, right? You can be in the same alphabet. You just might have to use a few different letters, right, to get to where we're going. So I'm excited for the challenge, right? I've talked to, a buddy of mine down there who's pretty involved in the basketball community. And, we've had a few back and forths on Twitter about certain philosophies.
I can imagine.
And he's told me outright.
I can imagine who you're referring to.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, and he's told me it's going to be a battle to maybe kind of change the mindset down there. But it's going to be fun, right? We go through that battle every single year in Houston. We go through that battle in RGV, right? It's just, how can you convince guys that playing this way, right, or closer to this way, is actually going to benefit them and benefit the team in the long run. But it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we are looking forward to when you come home. Definitely, we're going to have to take you out to some drinks, because I think Neil is going to need it when his Lakers don't win the title as he thought he started this season. But thank you once again, Devan, for coming on the show. We can't wait for you to come home, share your basketball knowledge with us, and again, console Neil when the Lakers don't win. But
hey,
Devan, just know that some of us are delusional, and then there are guys like you and I that we understand basketball and how it goes. So it may not be me that needs consoling.
I intentionally did not wear red just to not spark any controversy. And you wear yellow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Just get it going.
I just grabbed a shirt. I just happened to be yellow.
randomly grab one. But I will gladly take you all up on the drink offer. We'll have to do one of those live in the restaurant shows while I'm there.
Oh, for sure. Yes, there's no doubt about that. We would love to have you on. Hopefully, as I said, leading into the next NBA season, the live on location, we have Devan Blair, and I'm certain that the entire basketball community is itching to get at the analytics guy, because that's what they're calling you here, the analytics numbers guy. So they're just waiting for you.
I'll take it. No, hey, as long as we get sponsored by the rum company again, I'm in.
Yo, go. That's our people. So yeah, for sure, we'll save some Appleton Estate rum just for you.
I will say this. Where was I? It was when I came down last time. It was like the cave area. You know, like where you like dive down. I think Rihanna did a photo shoot there.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
They took us there, right, as one of the places we had to go see. So we went there, and there's that little bar just right outside of that.
Yep. I think that's north of the island, yeah.
That was maybe the best rum punch I'd ever had in my life.
Oh, then we have a lot of catching up to do, Devin.
Let's do it. I'm ready to go.
Again, thank you so very much, Devin. As I said, when you get home, we are sure to have you on your first live when you get home. So thanks again, Devin. I'm hoping to see you. And I won't say I wish you Rockets well, because that means that the guy in the yellow shirt won't be very happy, and I need to keep him happy on my show.
Hey,
we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine.
Let's hope for good games, and then we'll all be happy.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, thank you so very much. That was, again, Blair, assistant coach of the Houston Rockets NBA G League team. Stay with us. We are taking a break, and we will be right back to talk about more NBA playoffs and the NFL, the start of the NFL season, because that's just 3 days away. So don't go anywhere.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. The God's with the king, no matter you're just the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22.
Give me a second.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. The God's with the king, no matter you're just the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.
Welcome back, everyone. We are back here on This Just In. My apologies, you do not have the lovely Marsha Boyce this evening, so I am stepping in as host and analyst. So that means that Neil gets to field most of the questions, and he is in the hot seat tonight. And we start off with none other than in the Western Conference, a series that is supposed to continue right after we put down right here the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Clippers. Neil, I'm going to ask you, going into that game 3, or going into tonight's game 3, do you think game 2's victory by Denver was a fluke, or did you see this coming where Denver can actually make this a series?
Well, oddly enough, I would say, from my basketball understanding and from seeing the games, I would think that the Clippers will come out tonight and be dominant. They should get this victory. But, as Devan Blair was saying, the NBA G League assistant coach and Rockets head coach, he was with us earlier, and he was saying, that they basically have to play through their big guys. Denver does, they have Jokic. He is who he is, and he's very talented, very skilled. You have Jamal Murray, who just came off a great first round series. And he also put up a lot of big points. You have a pretty decent team in terms of role players and outside scoring. The only difference we know, or the only challenge they have, as we always talk about, is their interior defense. Devin did say that there were some guys that can kind of stall them up on the perimeter to kind of negate that drive and kick or that drive for layups. But yeah, basically Denver has to come out tonight and be very aggressive in getting the ball to either Jokic or making sure that Jamal Murray and other perimeter players get their touches on drive and kicks or drive penetration. No, we know the Clippers play great defense, but they have to keep the ball moving. Denver does. They have to keep the ball moving, and they have to make sure that any mismatches or any exploits they can see, they need to really hit on it. It's really very little room for error, I would say, for Denver, more so than the Clippers.
I would agree with you, Neil. What favors Denver for me being able to make this a series, I think, in my estimation, as great as the Clippers are defensively on the perimeter, Jokic is an extremely gifted scorer, very, very skilled scorer, and also a skilled passer. If there is a weakness, the Los Angeles Clippers, it is in the paint. Montrezl Harrell and Zubac are good players, but they will have trouble with Jokic. So I do believe that they're going to have to go through Jokic a lot more to be able to stay in this series. And, you know, we saw, as much as we talked about Jamal Murray having an excellent first round series against Utah, I think we kind of glossed over the fact that Jokic was extremely consistent to very good in that series as well. I think he comfortably averaged a double-double with 20 points per night in that series. So that should so to answer that question, I don't think it was a fluke per se, because Jokic will give, by looking at the matchups, Jokic will give the Clippers problems.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, though, what I will say is I don't expect this to go to 7 games, and I think that one game may indeed be the only game that the Nuggets win, simply because I do not expect Kawhi Leonard to go 4-17 again, and then for him to go with Lou Williams for a campaign, I think 10 of 33 they went from the floor. I don't see that happening again this series. Shannon Sharp on Fox made an interesting point. He said, for all the superstars in basketball he's ever seen, he thinks that Kawhi Leonard gets criticized the least. He does not get criticized at all. And his estimation, he thought that no one came right out and said that Kawhi Leonard laid an egg in game 2. And I agree with him. But I think part of the reason that Kawhi Leonard does not get a lot of criticism outside of the games that he misses due to injury or, rest, is that he is so consistent. Like, we look at him as a robot for the level of consistency that he brings. So I say that to say I do not expect Kawhi Leonard to have another bad game in this series, and that spells doom on Denver on both ends, because not only, as we know, is Kawhi Leonard a robotic scorer, but he is an even better defender on the perimeter. So I suspect that Jamal Murray is going to have his hands full with a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year matched up with him. So as much as I just said that Denver could make this a series, I honestly don't think that they can make it a series to go to 7 games. And I think that you're going to see the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals, as I predicted long ago.
Yep.
And going on to that potential Western Conference Final series, you have your Lakers, as you are fittingly adorned in your yellow. Neil, a scare in game 1. You went up by 20 odd in game 2, and Houston fought their way back with a ridiculous, I think they outscored you 41-23 in that third quarter, and you then managed to pull it out in the fourth. Are you concerned with your Lakers going forward? And in your estimation, what do the Lakers do to pull out this series?
Well, Justin, the funny thing about it is that the concerns that I aired when we were live in Bubba's a few weeks ago are still the same, right? At the end of the day, you understand that your players lose focus. So your job as Coach Vogel and as LeBron James is to constantly, and even Anthony Davis, is to keep your players constantly engaged, constantly focused, and doing the right things, right? Even we spoke about it earlier about Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee seeing very little minutes simply because Houston is going small. So you have to make sure that these players stay focused. Now, having said that, it all comes down to making sure and that whenever you get out to leads, that you maintain them, right? Anthony Davis has been phenomenal in this series. LeBron James is, as you say, he's picking his spots, but he's still playing like LeBron James, putting up pretty good numbers. You have Kyle Kuzma contributing with some points off the bench. You have Rondo, who's been inserted here of late, and he's taken a lot of threes, but then if they're daring him to shoot them, he does make them. He may not be making them at a high rate, but they're timely, right? He's put into the game at times where if he shoots the shot and hits it, it's great. If he misses it, then you rely on your defense. Markieff Morris, he did play well. Is Markieff Morris?
Yeah,
I get them right. Markieff Morris. Yeah, but he played really well in the last game, and we're going to need more of that. Anything we can get from the bench or from other role players would be obviously phenomenal. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, again, it comes down to his great shooting and his consistency. But in the end, I think it's going to come down to ensuring that you have great defense. Now, we've seen the focus was really lacking on some of these defensive plays, right? Where especially I think it was the last game, man. It was a lot of 3-point plays, especially to start the second half, right? Sorry, not 3-point plays, 4-point plays, right? And Danny Green, like I found at the beginning of the third, they made a lot of huge errors on defense, especially fouling jump shooters and not rotating quickly enough. I think, for example, I saw Danny Green because they were trying to trap the wings, right, and get the ball, say, out of James Harden hands or Russell Westbrook hand, maybe even Eric Gordon's hand. Well, what would happen is when they're rotating, I saw Danny Green and some other players, when it rotates onto, pass, and it goes to either PJ Tucker in the corner or whomever, right? They were really slow on going there. You already know what they want to get to, right? Devin was on here, and he spoke about it in season 1. They want to shoot the three. They're not going to shoot mid-range shots, right? So therefore, where the three is coming from. They're coming from the wings. They're coming from the corners, and they're trying to get the ball into those spots. So it doesn't make sense, kind of being lackadaisical or hoping that they miss their shot. You have to be very consistent and dedicated to what they're doing. Houston is they're small, and even though their defense, we have Anthony Davis, and their defense is not necessarily best. They still they have active hands, so that's another thing too. Careless turnovers by the Lakers, right? They have to make sure. Even LeBron James was guilty of it last night. You have to make sure that you make proper passes, you get the ball where you want to go, and don't look shell shocked. Don't look like you trying to be cute with that, going through the lane pass, or if you see a guy diving or whatever, and he has like a window. Just a small window. Don't try to rifle the pass in there, right? So it's all about ball security and defense in my mind. To me, the offense is going to come. All things being equal, AD is playing well, LeBron is playing well, Kyle Kuzma, or whomever comes up, steps up big, hits shots, makes the right pass, and everything like that. Defensive plays, they're fine on the offense. It's the defense I am making sure that they understand. And, we talked about this earlier today too, about Coach Vogel making sure that the lineups he puts out there are the ones that are best suited for the matchup of the Rockets, right? And not putting on 2 bigs at a time or having Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee out there or any wildness like that. To me, I actually like the lineup of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Danny Green, Kyle Kuzma at the 3, LeBron James at the 4, and Anthony Davis at the 5. I think that's a very good 5. It's a good mixture of defense and offense, and it can put pressure on them with Anthony Davis and LeBron James on the wings and down low. So, it's gonna be very interesting to see basically how the Lakers come out and if they can maintain their focus and make a series of it. Go up and be 2-1 and then eventually win the series and make the Western Conference Finals.
There are 2 main points out of that I will take away from what you said. First, as you said, it's all about matching up properly. I know a lot of coaches want to do it their way and, impose their will. But the reality is, as you correctly said, this is not a series for the Lakers to be playing 2 bigs at a time. You saw that in game 1, having JaVale McGee and Anthony Davis. JaVale McGee was exposed. And as we talk off air a lot, it doesn't make any sense to me having JaVale or Dwight on for any long stretches. And if they're on, they should be on with no other big, simply because, one, they're not scorers in this time of their career, they're not scorers. So they're not going to, put pressure on Houston's smaller players to score on the inside. They're not scoring on putbacks. Secondly, as great of rim protectors as both JaVale and Dwight Howard are, the reality, as you just said, that Houston wants to score threes, and they will be matched up against smaller players, likely players that stand up in the corner like PJ Tucker. So even if they're on the court and James Harden is driving, the reality of the situation is that they will be lined or asked to match up with someone in the corner, leaving the entire paint free, so they're not going to be able to rotate back and protect the rim. So that makes him almost useless in the series. We saw Vogel try that situation in game one, and not sure if he was just trying to feel out Houston in that situation. Quickly made an adjustment. He did start JaVale again in game two, but he only played, I think, about 8 minutes. Dwight didn't play at all. And as you said, they went with a lot of small lineups, which for me, Lakers should have always done to begin with. So a lot of Anthony Davis at 5, LeBron James at 4. So that's one, the defensive end. And two, as you kind of touched on, and Devan Blair said it in one key statement, it's a make or miss league. So when they do go small, you have to require players not named Anthony Davis and LeBron James to make shots. And you saw that in game two. Markieff Morris was particularly hot. Kyle Kuzma did his part. Rajon Rondo was you know me, I'm a big plus-minus guy. In 28 minutes, I think he was a plus 28 or something like that. And Rajon Rondo was tremendous, like not just in making shots, he was engaged defensively, getting after it.
I just want to say that's playoff Rondo. You always wanted to say you don't understand why Rondo is on this team. And when I said earlier that, everybody being down, that's a time for Rondo to really step up and use his expertise, you say.
I wasn't a believer, but he made me a believer in game two. Like, as I said, it just wasn't him hitting shots. It was him being engaged defensively, him pushing the tempo a lot, because you heard LeBron James in the post-game press conference talk a lot about how hard he was pushing the ball. And obviously, the faster you push the ball in transition, the quicker the defense have to react. And then you can find players open. So I think Rondo did that. And we've talked about a big problem in Lakers, not only players not named Anthony Davis and LeBron James scoring, but also where does the ball creation come when LeBron James is inevitably goes to the bench. And in game two, we found out with Rondo. And if this is the Rondo that you can get, at least for most of the series going forward, then I do think Houston will give you problems still, but I believe you should get over the hump and make it to the Western Conference Finals, which I think is a different matchup altogether. But we have to save something for our next show, so we won't get into that. We have like a couple minutes left in the show, Neil. So it would be in for dig of me, yes, using different words tonight. Yes, it would be wrong of me not to switch gears to the NFL, because the season opener is but 3 days away. I know it does not feel that way, but the Houston Texans travel to defending Super Bowl champs Kansas City Chiefs for a huge Thursday night opener. This week. So I'm going to ask you now that we're going on to the NFL, Neil. What is the biggest storyline that you're looking forward to going into this season?
I mean, it's, I was thinking about this. Obviously, we had our pre-production meetings, and I've been thinking about this question all day, right? I mean, there's so many storylines. You have, starting from the bottom in no particular order, we're talking about Cam Newton replacing Tom Brady as the quarterback for the New England Patriots, and how he's going to fit into that system, that culture. Bill Belichick, the whole nine. How is he going to fit in? Knowing he's very flamboyant, sometimes he is temperamental, to put it best. Sometimes he's very temperamental. He's very flashy. He wants the attention on him. But we all know that New England is pretty much vanilla when it comes to that kind of media attention and certain things. And the next question to me is, Tom Brady with the Buccaneers, what will they do? How will they go about their season? A lot of people are saying that, of course, now this puts them into a huge title contender, very, very poised to make playoffs and everything like that. But it'd be really interesting to see what Tom can do, especially given his age, given a new system, given a new city, having played for New England for what, nearly 20 years. Yeah,
not nearly 20 years on the dot.
Yeah, 20 years. So that's going to be interesting storyline too. Another storyline. How will Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, how will they fare this season? We have the Washington football team. How is that going to be with all the controversy surrounding them? What product are they going to put out on the field? What team are they going to do? But to me, the biggest storyline of this season is how are you going to let the players address social injustice and unrest? Because we all know that the players are you get certain penalties for kneeling during the anthem. They were telling you if you want to kneel during the anthem, you should stay in the locker room and that kind of thing. But then that negates obviously protesting. So now we've had all of these things happening in the earlier months this year, right? With George Floyd, we had Jacob Blake, we had Breonna Taylor, so many Ahmaud Arbery. There's so many people that have lost their lives to police brutality, essentially, right? Excessive force. And that has come with a lot of video evidence. So no, it is not hearsay or a shaky body cam here and there. You have 4 or 5 angles that show, security cameras, everything that show and paint the full story. And the white guy in Kenosha that drove down from Chicago down to Kenosha to protect the business ended up shooting 3 people, killing 2. And then to see how he was treated by the police versus how a few days before Jacob Blake was treated by police. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, I know the players are going to protest, right? It's not like the players are not going to protest. But I'm just going to be interested to see how the league responds. How will Roger Goodell respond? How will the owners respond? And what kind of message will be sent? Because we know in the NBA, all of the owners, we've seen the commercials, we've seen the PSAs, everything like that, with all the owners and staff and everything like that, decrying racism and speaking out against police brutality. But now we know that the NFL is a totally different league. So to me, that is going to be a very interesting storyline, the most interesting storyline of this upcoming season.
Sorry, I want to double down on that. First, there has been a kind of a policy change in the NFL. They will indeed allow for kneeling and player protests during the playing of the national anthem. What I have found interesting, for lack of a better word, is the owner of America's team, Jerry Jones, doesn't seem to be quite on board. He has called for grace, as he says. And I think his policy is that he wants his players to protest before the playing of the national anthem, a policy that he had when the whole situation did come up with Colin Kaepernick 4 years ago. And he wants them to stand for the national anthem. I don't know how the Cowboys players will react. We haven't heard many of them during the off season. So it'll be particularly interesting to watch what happens in Arlington, Texas for their season opener. Also, to go on further from your point, for me, it is not also the player protest and how the NFL answers the players' response to social injustice, but it's also how does the NFL respond to the COVID situation.
Yes.
We've seen the NBA has been able to obviously to curtail the situation with their bubble. So too the NHL. Initially, it looked like baseball would have some problems. This last week, they've run about 1,200 tests and only one, I think 12 to 1,300 tests, and only one came back positive. So it would seem that the MLB has been getting a handle of the situation. My fear is that the NFL will not be so, I don't know, fortunate, but time will tell. We all want football to play, so as much as I say that on one hand, we want the football to play, and we don't want players' lives in jeopardy, owners, coaches, support staff, general managers, what have you, or even the family of these players, staff, So we hope that the NFL does indeed come up with a way to put a handle on the situation outside of just not having fans come in, not having fans in at the stadiums. In terms of on-field play, you kind of touched the Cam Newton situation. I actually think that New England is going to be a lot better than a lot of people think. I don't think that a lot of people want to pass on the title to the Bills, that AFC East crown, but I do think the New England Patriots will find a way. Because what I like about Bill Belichick the most is that he is a man that will inevitably find what you do best and utilize that to win games. And I think that Cam Newton and Josh McDaniels, that marriage is going to work out quite well. And I actually think, and this is going to sound blasphemous, I do believe that the New England Patriots offense will be a lot better than it was last season because it was dreadful. It was dreadful. It was just hidden.
But I completely agree. Simply because Tom Brady, even though he is still Tom Brady and can make those plays, he looked like he lost a step. Let's be honest, right? And he looked like he wasn't the Tom Brady of old. So I it's not blasphemous,
right? And I think Cam being a dual threat adds another dimension to New England offense, and I'm sure Josh McDaniels will utilize and force defenses to have to account for. But as you touched on things I want to talk about, I will bring in one for you. We know we have Adam Lewis that comes on our lives on Thursdays. He's from the What Off Season podcast, and he's a huge New Orleans Saints fan. And my thing, I think a lot of people have them at the class of the NFC. And my biggest concern is we all know that there are windows in sports. And the last three prior seasons, they have had some very rough playoff exits. They had the Minneapolis Miracle where Stephon Diggs scores on the very last second of the game with no time left to beat them. Then they have the no call on clear pass interference against the Rams that they probably should have won that NFC title game and going on to play Patriots in the Super Bowl. And then just last season, again against Minnesota, they had a last-second touchdown. Kyle Rudolph in the end zone, which looked like push-off. He wasn't called for it. And the Minnesota Vikings go on to win that divisional, that wild card playoff game. So that's 3 straight years that you are looked at as a prime Super Bowl contender and you fall dreadfully short. How do the New Orleans Saints rebound from that? Yes, you've gotten Emmanuel Sanders from the 49ers as an additional target, but now you've had some off-season talk. Alvin Kamara had threatened to hold out over a new contract. He's supposedly back at camp. So that for me, what the New Orleans Saints do, and I've even seen somebody go as far as to say they don't make the playoffs. I don't see that, but I really don't know how they will rebound from those 3 straight gut-wrenching playoff defeats.
Right.
Well, Neil, the clock says 9 o'clock, so if I was Marsha, she would say that is all the time we have. Is all the time we have for this episode. However,
I mean, hold on. I was just about to say. However, we got because I'm watching the live in the little corner here, right? We got 2.5 minutes, man. So we good.
So whatever. However, there will be no show on Monday, but that is only because this Sunday, we're heading right back down to Bubba's for our second live on location. As I said in the promos, it was so nice. We had to do it twice. The fan response from y'all was so tremendous from those who were in at Bubba's and those who watched live on YouTube. So again, those who are not here in Barbados, you can watch us just as you do right now live on YouTube. And for those here in Barbados, yes, you can watch on YouTube, but come on down because we have so much in store for you. We have a million fan giveaways, one of the biggest ones, the best dressed fans. So come out in your full fan gear apparel. Thankfully Neil is on set, so he won't get to wear his Lakers yellow and purple. But we are encouraging you.
You believe that?
Oh no, apparently that's not the case. But please come out in your full team apparel, and you will get a chance. And this is, the winner for certain will get a voucher, and a decent voucher from Bubba's. It's worth of food. It's enough food that Neil and I can't eat all of it. So you will get a Bubba's voucher for the best dressed fan. We have the Appleton Estate Hot Takes Challenge, where you say Appleton Estate Hot Takes as fast as you can 5 times, and you will get an Appleton Estate giveaway. And there is also, for me, the best giveaway on the night is, I'm not sure what we're going to do, but we will find a way. The fan who answers the question to our choosing gets 5 minutes on air, live on set. That's it, live on set next to me, Marsha, and Neil. Obviously, social distancing, but next to the three of us for a 5-minute segment to talk either the NFL or NBA. So make your way down to Bubba's this Sunday at 1 p.m. for our next live on location. I can tell you, I am ecstatic. Neil is over the moon. It's over the moon. He won't get to wear his Lakers jersey. Over the moon at this whole situation. So Neil, let's tell me, like, what are you most looking forward to this Sunday?
I mean, just everything you just said, right? I think to me, I think we all did really enjoy the atmosphere and the vibe of the last live show. But I really do like the fan engagement, right? I mean, at the end of the day, still, this is not about us. It's about the fans. It's about the sport. So to me, come out in your fan gear, your apparel. Obviously, it's the start of the NFL season. So those of you that are into the NFL, y'all could wear your jerseys or what have you. Obviously, it's NBA playoffs going on, so rock your jerseys. We had a good number of jerseys last time. So, I mean, I am looking forward to, and I think you and I are planning to do a bit more engagement with the fans and stuff like that. So I actually looking forward to it because, I mean, I love talking sports. I love rum. I love Bubba's. Like, Appleton Estate rum is pretty smooth. So, I mean, I just looking forward to it. That's the truth. I can't wait.
You here in Barbados, let's come on down and meet the gang. Come on down for 1 o'clock. And as I said, you'll get to see us do the Appleton Estate Hot Taste Challenge and then go directly into the live show. For those of you unfortunate that don't live in Barbados, I mean, sad, but you can still start and catch us on our streaming from 2 o'clock right here on YouTube. That's right here on YouTube. We'll be filming live from 2 o'clock. So we can't wait for Sunday, and I hope you can't wait either. So for Justin Marvel,
I am the Neil.
And thank you for tuning in, and we can't wait to see you Sunday. Good night. This has been This Justin.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. The God's with the king of that is your best day. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.